folks, MasakoX here. Here is part 9 of the adventures of Jocha, Goku's older sister. In a world where Bardock and Gine had another child, in between Raditz and Kakarot, who was very powerful, but also wrought jealousy upon the pineapple-head elder brother, and thusly whisked her off to servitude against her will with the Saiyan elites because she was that powerful. Now free, she saved Earth from Vegeta and, pretty much any other kind of threat, honestly. But this is an April Fool what if, we can do what we want for the sake of a good story, but then what? Boredom was a very challenging foe. In the last part though, that was no longer the case. Something interesting happened, but not a good thing. You see, Launch had gotten jealous thinking Jocha was muscling in on Ten Shinhan, her crush. Which isn't the case at all. If you've watched our previous parts, you get the idea of what she's kind of into. She's not into that sort of thing, romance. Kind of like Ten Shinhan in a way. Maybe that's why they actually get on so much. But anyway, she was almost fatally wounded, mainly down to the fact that in Super, Goku was hurt by a projectile when he let his guard down. So at this point in the story, I think this could happen for the sake of dramatic effect. But of course, a trip to Kami and a senzu bean could easily fix all of those physical wounds, but the one in the head, that would last a little longer. And she had a lot of space given all the stuff that happened to her in her life. She couldn't relax for 1 second now, it was very clear. Not even her dreams in between life and death gave her a break. Somehow, a connection to Bardock in the other world mysteriously advised her to take down Frieza in pursuit of relaxation and true victory for the Saiyan race. But in typical story tropes, he would not explain all of it in a very convenient manner, in minute detail that would actually be helpful. It would be so cryptic. That would have to be figured out on their own, which also then begged the next question. How would they go about stopping Frieza, and why? And were they even ready? Well, here's where we resume and try and piece all of that together. It had been a few months since Jocha had had her vision, and the group were getting to grips with Kaioken, with Ten Shinhan and Krillin getting the upper hand with the technique. Yamcha was struggling with that part, but he was rather good at the Spirit Bomb actually, since he had had his own similar technique, the Spirit Ball, where he can guide a ball of energy with very extreme precision. So obviously this was just the next step up. He didn't seem too bothered about not grasping the Kaioken side of things as well as the others, since he could have other uses for gaining energy fast. And besides, it meant that the others were free to use Kaioken because it would make sense that if everybody tried to use the Spirit Bomb all at once, all they would be doing would be competing for energy amongst themselves, bickering for who's going to have the biggest Genki Dama, and thusly, it would prove ineffective against one single enemy. Yeah, I'm cool with all that, said Yamcha. Well, I got my uses. That's fine by me. He had the utmost assurance, clearly. Jocha liked that, knowing to be comfortable in one's skin. She wished she could be like that. Another thing that was coming from all of this was the acclamation of Piccolo amongst the group on a regular basis. Having been keen to avoid the group for the longest time, after his humiliation at the 23rd Budokai, then realizing his revenge was permanently on pause, he had been training more and more with the likes of the Dragon Team, feeling less and less likely that he was about to pull a fast one on them, trying his best to understand them more and what made them tick. What made Goku tick. However, Jocha was not all that worried about him in that regard. He was not stupid, and he knew when not to fight, when the battle was not coming. But what made him more intriguing to her was his pushing of the Kaioken technique. And I know this has actually been a really good big fan question. One day, when Piccolo was training and powering up for this technique, he could spot Jocha just sitting there, looking at him very intently. He powered down, very disturbed by her presence, and gave her a very dismissive look. Can you stop gawping at me, Saiyan? I can't concentrate with you piercing into my soul like that. What do you want? He then sat down to get some meditation in because he wasn't going to be able to actually show off his performance in that way. Jocha walked up to him and sat down, very deliberately, the Namekian grunting in annoyance. She was not going to be going anywhere, seemingly. What do you think of the Kaioken then? Pretty cool, huh? Piccolo looked irked. I'd hardly describe a technique such as that as cool. It's useful. That's grossly underselling it, she said with a smirk. I watched you and... I know all too well you have, he said at his inside. You've gone further than I have. Times 10 already. Is that to do with your, regeneration? Piccolo did not want to indulge Jocha at all. But at least this question wasn't something inane or vapid like most of the questions out there. It was something at least a little bit pertinent to the matter at hand.
You must know. Yes. It comes with the cost of extreme pain when my body tears itself to shreds. But I can learn the limitations of it much faster than the Earthlings can. Knows that they shouldn't mess with me.
He said that with a very confident tone, meriting his own advantages amongst the humans. Interesting. How about we push you a little further then?
What? What kind of stunt is this? Are you gonna beat me down again? Make me out to be a fool in front of everyone else again? I don't know what you're up to, but if you could just kindly stop and leave me alone, that'd be great.
Jocha didn't leave her alone. Jocha didn't leave him alone. She stood up with a very calm expression. No, I can tell you're a very focused warrior, Piccolo. You're kind of like me, never wanting to stop. You're gunning for something. I mean, I don't quite like what you're gunning for, but it's something. And I kind of want to help you reach that. Piccolo was confused.
How do you know for sure that once I surpass you, that I won't try and take over the world and kill you all?
Jocha gave him a very sassy look. I know you won't. You're past that, really. You're not as evil as you make yourself out to be. You care for this planet too much to destroy it or subjugate it. Yeah, Jocha remembers Goku's brother. She's very perceptive like that. If you had just allowed us to help you eschew the sins of your father, then you may have become an ally much sooner. You wouldn't have had to have been alone for so long. Maybe you could have been a friend.
Don't say that, Piccolo said with venom. We will never be friends. But you're not entirely wrong. I would rather have this world remain in one piece, as it is. It's quiet, if you know where to look. Right now it's quite the opposite.
Jocha smiled. Then why don't we get you up to speed then? Fight me, with the most Kaioken you can muster. I'll refrain from using it. Piccolo was tempted to punch the Saiyan in the face right now, but this seemed rather patronizing since she wasn't going to be using it.
A handicap? Really? You're not helping my case!
Don't think of it as a handicap, more like a punching bag for you. That's what you want, right? A Saiyan to wail on? I'm giving you an open invitation. Piccolo was
irked some more, but
the fact that she did know how to play him, but okay, why not? Play a game. They moved away from one another a little, and Piccolo began to power up. Kaioken times 3, then times 5, then times 10. Jocha was getting excited to see how Piccolo could work with that level of the power. This was far more than any of the Earthlings could have ever gotten to right now. I mean, honestly, they could barely work with Kaioken times 2 when pressed. Piccolo, ensconced in red energy, was sending everything at Jocha. She, at her base power level, was able to dodge these attacks, but she had to admit, it was kind of a challenge to do so. She was smiling though throughout. This didn't faze her. She was enjoying it, keen to see Piccolo progress through all of this, really exacerbate the technique, show the limits of it, so then maybe she could benefit from this too in the long run. If she knew that this could go to times 10, times 20, times 50, times 100, whatever, it would be limitless, at least for the time being. He was sharing in his own special way, whilst also venting out all of his anger and frustration towards the Saiyans and Goku. Something of which that he never got to indulge in during the Saiyan visitation. She knew that he was angered by being on the sidelines, being brought there and then had nothing to do, to watch her have all the fun. Now, he could have some catharsis. Maybe that will get him on side with them finally. He was very strong and very useful and smart. He'd be a great addition if he would just play ball. Who knows? Maybe he might get talking with Kami again. But just then, as she was thinking to herself, just pontificating about everything about Piccolo and trying to dodge, Piccolo managed to get a stretchy arm punch to graze Jocha's torso, sending her spiraling off into the dust and onto the Piccolo power down for a moment to catch his breath, whilst Jocha got up from the rubble. That was great, Piccolo! You got a hit on me! Not bad! Piccolo, though, wasn't smiling. He was not satisfied.
Don't you humor me! You weren't concentrating. You were thinking about other things. I don't need that kind of simpering.
He tapped his head.
I can tell, Saiyan. face me with all of your focus. Or don't even bother.
He waited for a reply. All right, you got me. I'll give you my full attention. Piccolo powered back up again and resumed the onslaught. The battle continued, and with Jocha fully concentrating on the battle now, Piccolo was finding it increasingly difficult to lay a proper hit on her at Kaioken times 10. The rest of the group could see the sparking battle going down and had paused their own training to watch. Even Goku was curious. With Jocha carefully dodging and taking the Namekian's punches and kicks very seriously, it was clear that drastic action had to be undertaken. Kaioken times 20. Piccolo let out a roar and shouted the phrase in a huge explosion of red energy and a hurricane of blows that not only struck Jocha, but actually did some really compelling damage. She had to get serious now, and even if this fight lasted less than a minute, given how really intense Kaioken was, this would be valuable information for her and the rest of the group. Piccolo, though, was amazing, she thought. He was really getting into it, showing how far Kaioken could go. Again, she may be able to get Kaioken times 20 for herself. Piccolo knew he wouldn't last long in this state, but he kept going anyway, very keen to hurt Jocha as much as possible. This was all the healing that he could possibly need, at least for now. Even though his body could do with some of that at the moment, because, he was tearing himself to bits. A minute had passed, and Piccolo could feel his body starting to tear itself into bits. But he used this moment to let loose a very hasty little trick that he had been concocting in the shadows, before all of this interference. It wasn't as intense as the one used on Raditz in the original, but it was enough to get a point across.
Special beam cannon fire!
From his two fingers on his forehead, a purple and yellow spiral beam shot forth and caught Jocha in the leg, searing the skin and causing the Saiyan to shriek out in pain. But not long after that, Piccolo collapsed to the floor, completely out of energy, the red hue around him dissipating, and him just looking completely dreadful. Cuts, tears, wounds, all over. Sis, are you okay? Goku rushed over to his sister's side. Jocha, though, waved him away. It's fine, brother. Just gotta walk it off, I think. But that was... wow. Kaioken times 20. And that special beam cannon? Remarkable. She looked at Goku and they both nodded. That was going to be their next target. Meanwhile, Piccolo was groaning as the act of regeneration was commencing. But it was still a really excruciating task. Jocha had offered him a senzu bean. They didn't just leave him lying there, with Krillin of course being the bean guy, but the Namekian refused it.
I'd rather heal myself. I don't need any more of your pity, but I hope that served a purpose. Don't you mess with me or belittle me. Think I'm just some kind of punching bag for your own gains. If I had it my way, I would kill you.
Goku was mad. You take that back! But just then, a loud, brash noise emanated from the side.
Relax, kid. He's just talking big.
It was Nappa arriving on the scene in his lovely little sports car. Everyone was bemused as to why he didn't just fly here, but I guess that's why he was late. He was also going places literally and figuratively.
Sorry I'm late, Jocha. Had a press thing I couldn't get out of. Mr. Satan's really coming in clutch with those get-out phrases. I just told those guys I had a really bad stomachache and they let me go lickety-split. So what do we do? Whoa!
He spotted the condition of Piccolo.
That green guy looks pretty mangled, huh? Good thing you got that regeneration thing there, buddy. And if any of things get real bad, we always got those Dragon Balls to wish you back. I told you already. If I die, no Dragon Balls. Yeah, we can always get another one of you guys from your home world. And honestly, you guys are kind of expendable. Why I order?
Jocha, sensing some more drama forming, motioned Nappa to hastily get going and start with practice regarding Kaioken, something that she thought Nappa would be actually good at, because he was always angry back in the day. Piccolo cursed under his breath.
Damn Saiyans.
But then he smirked, knowing that he had at least managed to get some sort of hit on Jocha. If he could keep pushing like this, in the background, he could really make this gift from the gods his own. Then he would show them. He looked up to the Room of Spirit and Time and planned. As Nappa set down his clothes and got changed into his fighting gear, he realized that he'd actually had his scouter in his pocket the whole time when it had fallen out of it. Not wanting to damage it, since it was still pretty important in case Vegeta got in contact and wanted to join them with training perhaps, he kept the door open. He placed it gingerly on top of his suit before continuing. Out in deep space, Frieza Planet 719 to be precise, a transmission did the rounds amongst the communications department, which got people buzzing. Something about Dragon Balls and wishes. The research team immediately got to work with the details and provided some information for the Citrian right hand to the boss to be able to present to the actual Kingpin. After a day of intense scrutineering, Zarbon delivered the dossier and news to his superior.
Lord Frieza, I come with interesting news. The team have discovered something interesting regarding a mystical item.
Frieza didn't turn around to face him though. Zarbon, you do know that I don't deal with matters of legends and mystery and frippery. At least not anymore. Unless you've got some concrete information there, kindly remove yourself from my doorway.
It appears to be more than just a legend, sire. These Dragon Balls are quite well known throughout the galaxy. They can grant any wish that you want. Anything, sire.
Frieza did turn around at the sound of that. Anything? Zarbon nodded.
Yes, sire. Namekians are the creators of them. We have located their planet and are preparing a scout party to investigate. All they are waiting for are your orders to proceed.
Frieza walked over to Zarbon and scanned the documents intently. This was very big news. They wouldn't bother him if it wasn't. And something that he did want to know more of. It was quite rare for Frieza to actually read these things. He usually trusted Zarbon and Dodoria to just carry out such matters for themselves, but no. He thought that this was something that could benefit himself very much, quite considerably. Interesting. Alright, send them out, and then prepare my ship for long-range travel. We shall follow at a distance. If this Namek does exist and has these dragonballs you speak of, we could do with a set of those.
And what if they don't comply, Lord Frieza?
Oh, Zarbon. I think you know what I'm about to say.
Very good, sire. We shall start preparations at once.
With that, Zarbon walked out, leaving the dossier with Frieza. Frieza looked down at the papers and smiled. At last, the last piece of the puzzle in securing eternal domination of this galaxy. That Super Saiyan God legend will mean nothing if they cannot end me. I will be the god that all fear forever. He let out a malicious laugh, which resonated throughout the entire base. Frieza was going after those Namekian Dragon Balls. But that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now.